You know, when I do my trainings with corporations and nonprofits and churches and universities, part of what I train on is not only workplace protocols but also personal development, and in making the major step to transition at any stage of your life. I always talk about the personal side of that. It's not all about fitting in the workplace, but it's also about your own personal journey and having those components in place to ensure that your transition is successful as possible. Because as you know, in the transgender community, our suicide rate is alarmingly high at 41% of our entire community who lives this journey attempts suicide. So how can we, cut into that? And a big part of that is having the support of family and friends, having the support of your employer, having self-actualized to where you're strong enough and ready to make this step, but also making sure that you absolutely have a mental health professional in your corner, on your side, guiding you every step of the way. I was very fortunate in my transitioning 8 years ago that I had a wonderful therapist who on many occasions saved my life, and sorry. And he's here today to speak to us. He's very special in my heart. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. David Baker Hargrove of BHC Assessment and Consulting.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, I didn't really expect that, so I'm kind of like all moved and all nervous and kerfluffled and everything. So, one of the things I think I have to talk about in the work that I do in my company is that my journey kind of started okay, so first of all, I have to say that, that the general out there, they lump us all together in the LGBT plus, and they think that we're all kind of kumbaya and we all kind of get each other. And, and the reality is, of course, as most of you know, is that, the L and the G and the B and the T don't really, there's so many instances where we really don't understand each other. I mean, my goodness, it's hard enough for the gays and the lesbians to get along enough times, let alone when you start to throw in the T into the mix. And so I certainly grew up as a young homosexual psychotherapist. I certainly grew up as a typical cisgendered party boy gay man. I didn't know anything about transgender people, and I think that there was probably a little bit of judgment and cruelty in some of my behavior many years ago. But what happened was so I've been practicing in the Central Florida community for about 20 years. I started in '94. And so in the mid to late 90s, I was a volunteer counselor at the center. And someone came in who wanted to transition and said, oh, I think I'm transgender and I want to transition. And I didn't know anything about what to do or how to help this person. And in 1997, the internet was basically just porn and message boards, right? So there was no way to get any information about anything. The published literature on what it meant to be transgender or how to help someone transition was almost non-existent, at least as far as I knew and could get my hands on. And but you know what? We sat down and we tried to work it out together. And I really kind of found it connected to me in so many ways, because I felt like that it was so cathartic for me to kind of reach out to so many people. And I never really intended to kind of be like the transgender therapist. I didn't really know that was going to be my thing. But I found such a deep connection of people really struggling with who they are. And it was so parallel with my own journey, because along the way, growing up gay now, in a lot of cases, is so much different than growing up, because I'm really old, by the way. And so growing up as a young gay man in the 70s and 80s, it was a lot. The landscape was a lot more hostile, and certainly because as a result of that, I grew up very disconnected from myself. I didn't know who I was, and I was not anchored to my truth. And I find that that's so often the case with people in the transgender community, and I really connected to that because I wanted, in my own journey, as I learned how to become honest with myself and I learned how to become anchored to my truth, I wanted to be able to convey that and teach that to other people. And so I kind of found this kind of this relationship between myself and the transgender community that really worked. And so I just continued onward, and then as the internet started to kind of grow and expand, my name started to get out there and more people started to come to the business, and I actually started BHC Assessment Consulting in 2005. Originally for a much different idea. I had kind of partnered with a school psychologist, and we were going to do psychological testing, which is like horrible, the most boring job ever, and it didn't really last for very long. So when people ask me, well, what does the BHC stand for? Because obviously BH is Baker Hargrove. And C was the actual other partner's name, and who doesn't exist with the company anymore. And so now I just tell people Charming. So people ask me, so when did you start to see a huge growth in people coming to you about their gender identity and wanting to explore what their gender identity meant to them? And I really put it at 2008. I really started to see an explosion in my practice of more people coming and coming. And that's really about the time that social media really started to take off, Facebook and Twitter and a lot of different forums that were on the internet. And I think it was a lot of YouTube. And so people were really able to start to find that information. And when they were able to find this information, it spoke to them. And then they wanted to seek out someone who they felt that they could trust or have a good relationship with to get them started on this journey. And I'm very active in WPATH, the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. And and it was about that time that even I thought that the standards of care for WPATH were starting to look a little archaic, because our job as mental health professionals at that time was just to make sure that you're not crazy. And so that was kind of our job. And I really thought, I don't know that that's the way that I really want to have that relationship with clients. As one client said to me one time, and I'll never forget it, I can go to some sort of tattoo artist or somebody like that, and I can tattoo my face to make myself look like a reptile, and I can fork my tongue, and I don't have to have a therapist sign off on that. But if I want to undergo medical treatment in order to make my body match my mind, I have to have someone vouch for me that I'm not crazy. And that really struck me as so significant. And so I really wanted to have a different relationship with clients. And so one of the things that we kind of grew into is really about how to set people up for success, because transition itself is a challenge. And I find that so many clients really have spent a certain amount of time disconnected from themselves and really trying to figure out who they are. And, and if I have this situation and I have this experience in my life, can I still look in the mirror and say, yes, I matter? And so that has really been the way that we've developed our model of doing therapy and our way that we relate to the clients. And I think that's why we've continued to grow. So when I stepped down as president of the MBA in 2010, I had a dream. And my dream was that I wanted to build a more comprehensive health center for the LGBT community where people could come and be able to access culturally competent health care. Not just mental health care, but health care. And so I started that, of course, doing what I know, and that's growing BHC into a larger practice. Now for many years it was just me in a room. And now I have three therapists that work with me, and an admin team as well. And we can't keep up with the demand. Probably, and we do a lot of other mental health stuff as well, but probably about a good 65 to 70% of our clients are transgender. And we can't keep up with the demand. Actually, we're all on a waiting list right now. So, and that's really how much I think people in general are willing to break down those societal expectations of gender expectations and really look at themselves and explore who they are. And I think that's a really good thing. And so we continue to grow BHC, but also, it was really such a concern to me, as I'd like to tell people, I've been a nonprofit both personally and professionally my whole entire life. And so I've worked a lot in public mental health, and it was such a big dream of mine to have a nonprofit organization where we could have expanded access, where people who at every economic level could come and access services that they need. And that's when it was April of 2011 that I got the letter from the IRS stating that two Spirit Mental Health Services is now an official 501c3 not-for-profit organization, which we have been building slowly and quietly over the years. When we became a Medicare provider, we offer some low-cost counseling to people who are economically disadvantaged. But you know, so when I look to the future, what I see is still my dream to create a health center that has expanded access for people, a very economic stratum to be able to access, and not only just mental health, but general practice as well. So, and you know, it's so great. I totally believe in when you are doing what you need to do, when you are aligned with who you are and you live authentically and you believe in your vision for yourself, and you trust in yourself and you anchor yourself to your own truth, the universe works to help you. So not too long ago, and I've never actually, this has been a big secret until today, I had a medical doctor literally fall into my lap who, well, okay, that's not, I guess when I say literally, I mean figuratively, right? Because she didn't quite fall into my lap, but she did come to my office. She has been studying hormone replacement therapy for about 40 years. She's an excellent, excellent physician and someone that I am just so excited to know as a person. And she's currently going through her transition year. And our plan is that Two Spirit Mental Health Services will start providing, probably by the end of the year, primary care and HRT services. And it will be expanded access so that not just people with money will be able to come, and because that's really the big dream of mine, because as we've talked about earlier, so many of the people who are really struggling in the transgender community are people with, who are economically disadvantaged, and they really need the ability to access services and also get the medical treatment that they need. And we have a lot of big plans for Two Spirit in the future, and I think you all are going to be so amazed. And usually I don't ever, because I think talk is cheap, honestly, and I never usually say anything until it's actually done. But this is actually going to be a done deal, and I'm really excited to share that with you today. So, you know, this is what we've been doing. And so the other future of, make sure I'm not running out of time here. So the other future that I see that I want to make sure that I talk about is that really became clear to me, and it's been actually talked a little bit about today, is helping other people outside of our community understand the need to be culturally competent. And so one of the things that I also do is I want to expand that awareness within the medical community. And I have done that certainly in Central Florida. Some of my clients where I've done education for has been the Orlando VA, which there's such a huge number of transgender vets and that need culturally competent services at the VA. Central Florida Regional Hospital, I also did a seminar for the University of Central Florida's Health Services team. So all of their psychiatrists, nurses, and counselors to be able to raise their level of cultural competence, and also small practices here within the city that might have a greater than normal opportunity to see transgender patients. And then also in professional organizations as well. Last year I was privileged to speak at the American Psychotherapy Association conference in Tucson. And I'm very, very, very big feather in my cap, so that's why I'll end it with a big send-off, that I've been accepted to speak at the American Psychiatric Association conference this year in Toronto, Canada. So to talk to them about working with, yeah, that was huge. So, I mean, and so I'm very excited about that, and I'm going to continue to do that. I mean, I have a big list as far as my travel budget will allow to go to these conferences and speak to people to spread the word about culturally competence and delivering cultural competence services to the transgender community. So I'm going to hit like the Nurse Prax conference and family physicians, and I've got a whole list. So that's what that's kind of what I'm doing in my work with the transgender community, and I'm very honored and pleased to be able to provide that service. So thank you all very much. Okay, awesome.